Hi, I'm Jonathan M0JSX. Thanks for joining me in another video. Today, kind of a bit of a news item. You may remember about a month or so ago, I did a sort of reaction to the announcements made by a few manufacturers at Dayton. Well, I predicted it at the point I said that Yaesu at that time hadn't released anything, but that I wouldn't be surprised if something was to come in around a month's time. We're about a month later, and here we are. We're going to talk about the soon-to-be released Yaesu FT-710 or AESS, as it has the distinguisher at the after it. I'm not quite sure what that stands for, but there we go. Let's talk about this new radio from Yaesu, which seems to be... I'll get into my thoughts later. Let's just talk about what it is. So this is a new compact designed radio providing 100 watts output power, utilizing the digital RF technology first introduced in the FTDX 101 series and then the FTDX 10. It has Yaesu's unmatched this is all their blurb. Yaesu's unmatched SDR technology emphasizes the receiving performance. Bandpass filters dedicated for the amateur bands to eliminate out-of-band unwanted signals. I mean, these are all the specs. We'll go through just some of them. RF front-end design with 250 megahertz HRDDS or high-resolution direct digital synthesizer. Enables phenomenal multi-signal receiving characteristics. They go on. Support for the FC40 auto tuner. What's nice one here is it's got a DVI connector on the back, so you can plug in an external monitor if you want to. It has a memory card slot as well, which is something we're seeing across most radios nowadays. Two USB ports. It says Type A and a Type B. I'm going to go on a limb here to say that is most likely a USB Type B, so you can plug in your standard printer type cable for things like FT8 or logging if you want to do cat control over a USB cable. That Type A, though, that's quite interesting. So that's the normal type that you find on the front of your computer. So the fact it has a Type A, is that going to support keyboard for maybe something like maybe built-in RTTY or built-in PSK maybe? I don't know. It'd be nice to find out more about that. Here's what we really care about, frequency range. So it is all of HF and 6 meters across the world. So 1.8 megs through to 50 megs. And then what's nice to see is that they have included 4 meters again on the in the UK version. I actually would go out to say that's probably the whole of Europe as well. RX wise, 30 kilohertz through to 75 megs. That's basically DC to daylight. So you can cover all of the AM broadcast band as well, down to the medium wave broadcast, even long wave, actually, thinking about it, going all the way down there. What the performance down there is going to be like, I don't know, because obviously the 7300 has very similar performance or claimed coverage, except by the time you get below a meg, it's quite deaf, as I've found out myself. Has CW, AM, sideband and FM as standard. That nothing surprising there. Power output between 5 and 100 watts. I would like to guess it's probably only going to be 50 watts out on 70 megs for 4 meter band. The dimensions, 9.4 inches by 3.1 inches by 9.7 inches, or 239 by 80 by 247 millimeters, weighing in at approximately 4.5 kilos or 9.92 pounds, 1 to 10 pounds. So that's what it is. That's the radio. There's a few pictures of it. I mean, it was leaked sort of yesterday. The announcement has come through today. Here are my thoughts on it. I don't see where it fits in, if I'm completely honest. So, judging by the sizing, it's a very similar size to the FT-991A, except it doesn't seem to be a successor for the FT-991A, given the fact that it doesn't have 270 on board. If it had have done, then it would have made quite a lot of sense. So, it leads me to think that maybe it's their new entry-level HF radio, which would be nice, something to replace the FT450 as was. But then I think it's probably got too much in it for it to be cheap. And I say that tentatively because the prices are going up across the board. I mean, the 7300 now is, phenomenally more expensive than I paid for it sort of 4 years ago. So taking that with a sort of very heavy pinch of salt, the price point on this I think is going to be interesting. Now, I suspect it's going to be north of £1,000. I think Yaesu, here's what I think Yaesu want to do. If you're after budget and you're really after a 100 watt HF radio on a budget, then they're going to push you into the FT-891. If you've got a little bit more to spend, don't want 270, but you want a really, really high performance also HF radio, the FT-710, then the FT-DX10, because you get a bigger screen. So if you want that bigger screen, and it's only one antenna port on FT-DX10, isn't it? But yeah, you want that bigger screen on the front of the radio, then you go to the DX10, and then after that up to the 101. That's kind of, I see how they're getting that. I just don't quite see where this fits in with the FT-991A still in production. Now, if they were to pull the 991A, then this makes perfect sense, because they would have an HF radio, perfect. And if they were to do a very similar thing to ICOM and do a sort of VHF UHF version of this radio, and I don't know what they'd call it, who knows, but if they did essentially same chassis but for VHF UHF, then they'd have all bases covered. They'd have a very budget HF 100 watt radio. I'm excluding the 818 at this point, but they'd have a very budget HF radio. They'd have the matching pair of the 710 and a VHF UHF equivalent of it. Then stepping up, they'd have the DX10. Then stepping up again, you'd have the 101. It just gets a bit muddy in that middle point, that if you've got sort of between 1,000 and 1,200 quid to spend, where are you going to put your money? Are you going to put your money onto the 991A, where you're going to get a very good performing HF radio, let's not say that it's not, plus 2 meters and 70 sems as well? Or are you going to go, no, I don't want 2 and 70, but I really want a Yaesu, I'm going to go for the 710? But then are you also going to go, well, I'll spend that little bit more and get a DX10? This is where it gets really confusing in that sort of midpoint for Yaesu. Yaesu have quite a history of doing this though, where they have lots of radios that seem to overlap each other. I'm thinking when they first launched the DX10, the FT-DX3000 was still around, and they kind of seemed to be at odds with each other. And going back even further, when you had the 1200 and the 3000, yes, the 1200 was kind of a stripped back version, but I think the fact it was so close to a 3000 in terms of price, really, by the time you sort of made it up to being a spec that you'd want to buy, then you're just going by the 3000. So I'm really excited to see where Yaesu are going with this radio. I'm also really excited to see what price it does come in at. If I'm completely wrong and this comes in at sort of £900, I am going to be amazed. It's not, let's just say that. This is going to be somewhere, I think, probably the £1,200 mark. I think we're looking at a similar price for this that we're looking for the FT-991A, given the fact it's SDI, it's no latest generation, it's all of that, it's got to USB ports. Yeah, I've just realised though, I'm going to backtrack, because I've just realised with that USB-A port, and I said about it being for a keyboard, I'm not sure it is. I think it's more for a mouse. Thinking about it, given the fact it says the mode supported CWAM, sideband, FM, I think it's for a mouse, for controlling the radio if you wanted to with a mouse. I don't think it's for a keyboard. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I hope it does keyboard support, because that would be really useful for let's say some of the contests, RTTY contests, being able to just do it from the radio is amazing. Probably going to be wrong on that one. But yeah, let me know what you think. What do you think to Yaesu's new announcement of the FT-710AESS? Again, still not quite sure what AESS stands for, but I'm sure we'll find out. It looks like it's going to have a matching speaker. No idea about the details of that. I'm probably going to be very similar to an SP10. Also, I say it's nice that it's got the monitor output as well, although, of course, that's the third-party thing. The Yaesu are not making a monitor for it. Yeah, let me know what you think. Put your comment down in the comments section. Also, what price do you think this is going to come in at? I say my bet about the £1,200 mark, or about sort of $1,300. What do you think? What would you buy this radio? Would you buy an FT-710, or would you look maybe still at a IC7300, or are you still firmly a Kenwood person with the TS590SG? I'm excited about where this is going. I'm excited that there's a new radio coming out. We all get that little bit of new radio fever. I'd like to get my hands on one and have a play with it, see how it does stack up against other radios that I've used, and specifically I'm thinking the 7300, because it does seem to be the closest to a 7300 that Yaesu have now made. Let's find out together. Until next time, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you soon. 73. Bye bye.